I'm a reasonable sort of fellow. I don't often feel like taking stabs at other people in the YouTube arena, per se. But it takes a lot for me to get fulminated enough to complain about someone else's catastrophically bad take. You might know who Steven Crowder is. He's conservative, has opinions, and a very large following. I've watched him off and on over the years, and I can sometimes find his sense of humor sophomoric and sort of Doug Walker adjacent. However, he seems like a great guy in person and has a lot of integrity when it comes to research and presenting coherent thoughts on topical issues. But I gotta stop there and say that when it comes to movies, there is a lack. And that's okay, it's not the reason for the show's existence. And Steven, I know you've been in the industry, you were on Arthur.
Hey, do you celebrate Kwanzaa? No. No African Americans do. Did you know that? It's less than 2%.
You know from experience what the movie biz is like. That being said, most of your film critiques boil down to something not being realistic and so therefore bad. And I know your taste in movies is basically 80s and 90s cable standards and whatever's on the IMDb top 250. I swear you make a Christmas Story reference every show. And again, that's okay. But unfortunately, this brings us to the real issue. Steven has a segment called Bad Movie Lines, in which a scene from a movie is paused and the hosts guess what the next movie line is. Most of the movies have been actually bad movies. However, the last one Steven picked was Sam Fuller's White Dog, which I, and many others, maintain is a legitimately good movie, and a darn good thriller with emotional impact. Lamentably, at some point this movie crossed paths with Steven, and it went as well with his narrow sensibilities as someone who was caught reading at a truck stop Waffle House. Look, for real, Steven, my man, buddy, please, you're so good at the politics and the punditry and for good solid thoughts on current events, but movies, just not your bag. I'll be straight up with you. You have about as much taste for good movies as someone with COVID who ate sour cream and thought it was yogurt. I'm sorry, it just ain't there. Unless someone told you a movie was great, it's gonna be open season for your unfair shakes. A couple weeks before this ugly display, Crowder mentions wanting to use White Dog on the Bad Movie Line segment, and it hit close to home. White Dog? A bad movie? What the heck is this straight Billy Eichner smoking? So I did what anyone who doesn't like seeing good art pilloried in public does. I wrote a very stiff letter.
Very stiff letter. On cardboard.
Read it here if you like. And I warned him. It would look bad and worse, make him look ignorant if he used that movie for his segment. I didn't expect a reply, but a man's gotta try. So I watched the segment, and it was like watching a slow-mo lynching. First off, Crowder and his friends have to keep the jovial comedic jabs coming, no matter what. It's part of the format, I understand. So anything placed in that path is going to be steamrolled. Unfortunately, this is also what made them look terribly dumb. Crowder's reasons for this being a bad movie involve, it's about a racist dog.
It's exactly what you expect. It's a racist dog who's white.
Which he repeats over and over.
White dog, a racist dog, wants to be associated with a film about a racist dog. Because your film's about a racist dog attacking black people.
Then it's got Burl Ives, whose appearance they proceed to crap on throughout the segment just because that's part of the show.
You look like you dragged your beard through yellow snow. Everything about him is gross.
Burl Ives does a great job in the movie.
That dog was an old attack dog.
Can you help him?
Can't.
Why not?
Can't. Nobody can unlearn a dog. Nobody.
And it was disheartening to see the Crowderites holding kangaroo court and making baseless jokes about the movie's perceived cheapness simply because they had to maintain the shtick.
That little shot of R2-D2?
Yeah.
That was 4/5 of the film's budget.
It had to have been.
You did great, Burl. You're good. Maybe Crowder had seen the movie a long time ago and was pretending he hadn't in order to play the game. But I don't feel like anyone on the show had seen it. The way they just assume it's bad because Steven built it up as such makes it seem like the movie is not worth seeing. And it is. It deserved so much better than to be put in the same company as Theodore Rex.
40 years of training animals with the movies, and it's come down to putting us in storage for a piece of tin with blinking red lights. Are you married?
So you knew it.
Are you
Any
married?
children?
Weird transition.
When you do have them, by
Is it
the
a
time
casting
they're
couch all of a
25,
sudden?
They're getting rid of this, and all they have that goal with the C-3PO, human cyber. Show me your
Yes.
Yeah, are
That's
you
it.
married? What are you doing for dinner?
over 40 years of training animals for the movies, and it's come down to putting us in storage for a piece of tin with blinking red lights. Are you married?
No.
Any children?
No.
When you do have them, by the time they're 25, there won't be any animals.
It's just ignorance for the sake of comedy, all because Steven said it's bad. And now thousands of his followers will see this and think it must be so. Even though in that chat I saw people were sharing torrent links, so maybe some people made up their own minds. But I tried to warn him. Here's an excerpt from director Sam Fuller's autobiography, A Third Face. Then something strange and ugly happened. An NAACP spokesperson named Willis Edwards showed up on our set to see if our film was distorting the image of black people. I was flabbergasted. Why hadn't an organization as prestigious as the NAACP done their homework and checked out my record before sending a man to spy on my work? If they had, they would have found out that I was one of the first directors in Hollywood to use actors of color in intelligent, complex roles. What right did this man have to snoop around making a nuisance of himself, no matter the honorable objectives of his organization? The NAACP should have, at the very least, had the courtesy and respect to wait and see the finished movie. To my amazement and consternation, rumors began to circulate that White Dog was a racist movie, even before the picture had even been previewed in public. A meeting was called at Paramount with studio heads Michael Eisner and Jeffrey Katzenberg. As soon as I sat down in their conference room, they dropped the bomb. They were going to shelve my film. In the most absurd twist of events I'd ever heard of, the studio was backing down from opening my picture because of rumors from people who'd never even seen it. So then Crowder and his posse go on to call White Dog a racist movie, without having seen the film. Sound familiar?
Embarrassing.
With White Dog. I'm really glad the racist film.
Nice.
Racist film with Burl Ives.
I remember that one. See, because the movie's so racist already.
Yeah, it is pretty bad.
It's the content of your character, not the color of your fur.
Uh-huh. Apparently it's not. Apparently it's just about the color.
Oh, yeah, it is just the color of your fur.
Yeah.
I know at least his assistants watched the movie because they had to search for bad movie lines, which aren't even bad, they're just odd and interesting, and had Crowder or any of them bothered to really understand the context of the film, it might have scuttled the potential for this to be on the show at all. It just further shows that they were making fun of whatever they could because they had to. Now, Steven, you can do better, namely by not basing your criticism of a film you evidently haven't seen on a premise that is a bit out of the ordinary, because it makes you seem unwilling or unable to look past that and appreciate things beyond what you're used to. Why am I flustered at all, though? It's just a movie. Yeah, but seeing as I care about art, I find it ironic that someone who gets his facts straight about so much doesn't care about doing the same when it comes to culture. Way to uphold the stereotype. Seriously, if my channel wasn't probably shadow banned by YouTube, I'd likely get dogpiled by Crowder fans, and it'll also validate those on the left who think that the right is totally ignorant and is incapable of making good art. Ignorant is the right word, because to let this issue go without comment would be to assume that the culture doesn't matter. And I'm fed up with seeing people act like it doesn't, and then say culture is important while promoting some new milquetoast movie simply because it isn't woke. Culture from the past is important to conserve as well, you know. Best to learn from it. In closing, White Dog is a great film, and it is about a dog that was conditioned to be racist. And it's even perhaps about the dangers of how anti-racism can be misdirected to something else. Or maybe not, since the movie puts anyone's ideology into a tailspin, and you're just left with an emotional gut punch from a very good movie.